evening. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Steve Meadow. I'm the president of the Mystic River Historical Society. Thank you for joining us on the last event of our 50th anniversary year. I hope that those of you in the audience have seen some of the talks we've had previously this year. We've marched in the parade for the first time in a long time. We had a gala back in September. So we've tried to make this year a little special with respect to the events. But anyway, this is our final one for our 50th year. Thank you for being here. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone about the programs that we're going to be having next year, which is not too far away. In February, on February 28th, we're going to have Larry Wilson talking to us about celebrating Black history, especially as it relates to Mystic. On March 27th, we'll have Rebecca Donahue talking to us, and the title of her talk is Knit So As to Turn Water, the History of New England Maritime Knitting. On April 24th, Joan Sinkowitz will be talking to us about the Mystic Garden Club at 100, a century of making Mystic beautiful. And on May 22nd, we're going to have Barbara Nagy and Rick Gibstein talking to us about Dudley St. Clair Donnelly, who was the architect that shaped southeastern Connecticut. In April, we're also going to have on April 27th a walking tour on the Groton side of Mystic. We'll walk through Helen Clark's Mystic. Marilyn, Comrie, and a few others of us have done that a couple of years ago, and we're going to do it again. And we did miss a walking tour of the Mystic Art Colony that we had planned and that Betsy had put a lot of work into, and it rained and we didn't do it, but sometime this spring we'll be doing that walking tour of the Mystic Art Colony. We'll keep you posted on the date. All right, without further ado, we liked Marilyn's talk so much back in October, we asked her back again. Marilyn Comrie is our vice president, former president, 46-year member of the Mystic Historical Society, and a lifelong Mystic resident. And there's a whole host of other things that she said were not relevant, so I won't mention them. Without further ado, Marilyn.
I'm knocking everything over here. Hold on. The other thing that I wanted to say about tonight is that it kind of the program that we're doing tonight kind of harkens back to the 1970s when the Historical Society first started, because the programs that we offered were based on things that people had given to the Historical Society, letters, photo albums, and tonight's lecture is based on photos that someone gave to us last year. And I said, oh, this is something that we really need to share with people. And to go back 50 years in Mystic at a time that was the 50th anniversary of the Historical Society, we thought would be fun to do. So, the photos for tonight's presentation were taken by Julia Constantine, a Mystic resident who was a teenager when she first went around snapping the pictures. And Julia is here tonight, but she wants to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to point her out. The photo albums she donated to the Historical Society include pictures of Mystic in the 70s and 80s. The photos I chose for this program are mostly from 1976, with a couple from 1975. And they take us back nearly 50 years, and they depict Mystic as it looked at the time, around the time, that Groton established its historic district on that side of the river, and right around the time that the Mystic River Historical Society was founded. You'll see the Mystic waterfront before there was a steamboat wharf and a Mystic River Park, before S&P and the condos were north of the bridge, and how Little Gravel Street and West Main Street have changed, thanks to the restrictions of a historic district on that side of the river. Next. So do these seem blurry to you? Should we try turning the light off and see if, as long as I can see to read what I have here. Is that better? Okay. All right. So Groton residents approved a historic district for that section of Mystic early in 1975. And on January 2nd, 1975, Mystic suffered one of its most significant fires, albeit on the Stonington side of the river. The Hoxie House Hotel, known in 1975 as the Whalers Inn, was destroyed by fire. It had stood at the corner of East Main and Cottrell Streets for 115 years. It was built in 1860 by Benjamin Franklin Hoxie, and it was a downtown landmark. This photo, taken from the roof of the main block on the Groton side of the river, shows Cottrell Street not long after that fire. And this whole section of Cottrell Street is different today. The current owners of the Whalers Inn have, first of all, let's see, I will show you that right here is where the Hoxie House had stood on the corner. And the current owners of the Whalers Inn have knocked down these two buildings, and they're renovating this building. And in 1976, this was Noyes Dry Goods, and it was the only building on that side of the street that didn't belong to the Cottrell Lumber Company. Everything else from the bridge all the way down to the end of Cottrell Street on that side of the river was part of the Cottrell Lumber Company. And this is a Cottrell Lumber Company building right here. I think there's a candy store in there today, but that was part of the Cottrell Lumber Company. In 1975, the Whalers Inn was owned by Barksdale and Dorothea Macbeth. When the Macbeths built back after the fire, the building bore none of the characteristics of the original Hoxie House. It was kind of just a box. And that building stood at the corner of East Main and Cottrell Street for 25 years, even after the Macbeths sold the property in 1991 to local businessmen John McGee and William Griffin, who formed Whalers Inn Incorporated. McGee and Griffin expanded the business in Mystic as Mystic gained popularity as a tourist destination. And in 2000, they announced plans to build a replica of the original Hoxie House on the site. That opened in 2002, and it still operates today. Next. So Julia's photos take us back to the corner of Cottrell Street and East Main after the debris. Here's where the fire was. That's where the Hoxie House stood. And there's the Noyes Dry Goods. And you can see that there's no steamboat wharf. There's the whole side of the Groton that you can see from the Stonington side. The Union Baptist Church is up there too. Okay, next. Here's Noyes Dry Goods. And that became Mystical Toys, and today the chamber has a visitor center in there. This was the only business that built back after the 1960 fire. There were 17 businesses that were destroyed, and Noyes was the only one that built back at the site. And they were going strong in 1975. And you can see also, I hope this is working, over here, you can still see the Groton side of the river because there's no steamboat wharf blocking everything. Okay, next. All right, so here's Archie's Soda Shop. And here again is where the fire was. And Archie's and a bunch of other stores were on the bottom. The top part of this building this is the Whalers Inn, and there are hotel rooms. But Archie's was there for years. And it was in what was part of the Whalers Inn complex. And it survived the fire. People who grew up in Mystic in the 50s, 60s, and 70s will remember Archie's Soda Shop. Archie Radiconi and his wife Esther ran the shop for years. Teenagers spent a lot of time at Archie's drinking his trademark thick milkshakes and playing pinball. Part of Archie's daily ritual was to raise and lower the flag on the flagpole opposite the business because and he could be seen out there in his white apron and his chef's hat tending to the flag. Archie's closed in 1977. And Archie Radiconi was part of the fabric of Mystic in the mid-20th century. He was a life member of the B.F. Hoxie Engine Company, serving for 60 years. He sponsored the fireworks on the 4th of July at Williams Beach, and he did a lot of other activities for teens in Mystic. And he was a dedicated member of the Flagpole Committee. Next. Okay, so this is the Ship's Hold, which was a gift shop that the Macbeths ran in the hotel. Archie's is way down on the end here, and then this shows the ship's hold at its end of the building. Okay, next. This is another view of the ship's hold, but it also shows the building where the Mystic Chamber is today. You can see the flagpole, so Archie didn't have a very far walk from his shop across this, to go out and put the flag up and down. And then what you can't see in this photo is on the corner of Home Street, on the other corner of Home Street, was a gas station. You're going to see a lot of gas stations. There were a lot of gas stations in downtown Mystic in the 1970s. Okay, next. Okay, so this is a photo. Julia took a lot of photos from the roof of the main block. She took upriver photos and downriver photos. We'll see quite a few of them tonight. But I think this photo is an example of a photo that was taken for one reason, but became significant for another reason. And I think what she was doing was taking a picture of the east side of Mystic. So you have Home Street, you have Bay Street, and you have the lower seaport. But what's significant in this, what makes it significant is this building right here that juts out into the river. And that is Stanton Chevrolet. And those of you who have lived in Mystic for a long time, Stanton's was a big part of downtown Mystic. Joe Stanton opened it in 1920, and it ran up until almost 1980 when Valenti's bought it. And they ran their auto dealership there for a while until they built the complex up on Jerry Brown Road. And then they tore this down and built condos. So, and you can see the bridge right there in the foreground. Okay, next. So this is a lot that's next to Stanton's. You can see Home Street again, and there's Bay Street, and then this was an empty lot in 1976. And next, and this is another view of that same lot. But what I like about this photo is that it shows you, this is Mystic Academy back when it was an elementary school. So there's no two big wings on either side of it, where it's today is Academy Point. That's what it looked like when it was an elementary school. Next. Okay, so now we're back on Home Street. And this was All Seasons Travel in 1976. And the Lathrop Engine Company building is there. It's the engine room today. Next. And then we're moving up Home Street toward East Main. And this is Anthony J's today. I think this was the Mischievous Carrot, the vegetarian restaurant back in 1976. So, okay, next. So now we're over on Cottrell Street, and this is the French Cleaners. And people will remember that. And this building has been torn down, and this is the building here that that they're renovating now for the Whalers Inn. But this was the Oddfellows Hall in 1976, and you can see up here the sign, IOOF, Independent Order of Oddfellows. So.
That was Roger
Pansero. Yeah. Next. Yeah, Roger Pansero was in the barbershop. Okay, so now when we go down Cottrell Street, this is the main Cottrell Lumber Company building in 1976. And this is where the Mystic River Park is today. It's part of the park property. And Cottrell Lumber Company operated at that location from 1820 until 1988. And today, in Mystic River Park at Christmas time, Santa arrives by tugboat, and the kids come out and tell them what they want for Christmas. But when Cottrell's was there, back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the kids in Mystic went upstairs at Cottrell's to tell Santa what they wanted for Christmas. And this is it's the second floor of this building was where Santa was. Yeah. Next. And here is the lumberyard. This is right next to the building we just looked at. And this is where the park is today. You can see here's the main block across the river. And this is where Steamboat Wharf is today. All of these buildings along here. So you can still see the Groton side of the river, and there's the bridge is over in that corner. But this is what was there before the Mystic River Park. Next, here's another view in the wintertime of the same location where the park was. But what I really like about this is that you can see this is where Steamboat Wharf is today. But you can see the whole Groton side of the river. That's what was destroyed when they put those buildings up. I mean, you can even see the Groton Savings Bank here, the Chelsea Groton, and all of High Street, and it's gone now. Next. This is a really nice shot of the lumberyard because it shows you this is exactly where the park is today. And all of these sheds were there. The shed along the river was called Pine Alley, and that's where Bill Dodge kept all of his lumber. And those were all taken down for the park. This building up here, the Cash and Carry, is still there today. 6 of the buildings are still on the property. There are stores along Cottrell Street in the building, and then in the back are the public toilets. Next. And then this is at the end of Cottrell Street. This is the Seaport Marine. This part right here is the end of the park today. And these buildings were all destroyed by fire last November, a year ago. Next. And this is Mystic Lumber Company up Washington Street. Looked very different than, different. Next. And here is the Mystic train station. The Mystic train station was a dilapidated building in 1976. It had stopped being a train station quite a few years before, and it was sitting pretty well derelict. But it had a grand history. This station was the second one that had been built at the site, and it was built in 1905 by the New Haven Railroad. It originally had a lengthy gabled canopy on both sides of the station along the platform. The canopy was destroyed in the 1938 hurricane, and they never replaced it. And the station was also used as a model for the American Flyer toy train station beginning in the mid-20th century. So if you bought an American Flyer toy train and you wanted the station that went with it, you got a replica of the Mystic train station.
Was that Roberts in the background there to the left side?
Yes.
Roberts.
Yep. The New Haven Railroad folded into Penn Central in 1969, and passenger operations transferred to Amtrak in 1971. But by then, the station was in bad shape and was closed to passengers. Next. And here's another picture of the train station taken from across the tracks. In 1976, which was the year that these photos were taken, a group of residents formed Mystic Depot Incorporated to renovate the station and repurpose it. They received $40,000 from Amtrak, $15,000 from the state of Connecticut, and raised $36,000 from donations and memorabilia sales. Work began in late 1977, and the station was finished in April 1978. The Mystic Garden Club landscaped the grounds. And that's the station that's there today. The color of it and everything was the color that they painted it in 1978. Next. So here's a train stopped at the station in 1976. Passengers could board the trains and get off in Mystic, but the station was not operational. And when the renovations to the station were completed in 1978, the Mystic Chamber operated out of there for a while.
There's no overhead power lines. No, it's not electric at that time.
No.
Diesel.
No, this is before Acela trains, yes. Okay, next. So a couple of doors down from the station is the Packard's Tar Soap. And this view was taken from Angie's Pizza, looking back up Roosevelt Avenue. And in 1976, the Mystic Fire Department headquarters was still on Cottrell Street. So there's no Mystic Fire Department there. It's empty. It'll eventually be built, but it's not there in 1976. Next. And here we have the loading docks for the Packard's Tar Soap. And now we're going to head back into downtown Mystic. Next. So here's the bridge. This was taken in the years before any of the renovations to the bridge were done. And so it's its original color, and it's got the old bridge tender's house that was built in the 1950s. Next. Okay, so this is looking toward West Main Street. For some reason, these photos look like they're, I don't know, a little weird. But anyway, so this is the bridge and looking toward West Main Street. And West Main Street really hasn't changed that much. The shops have changed over the years, but anybody who lived in Mystic 100 years ago would recognize West Main Street if they saw this photo. Next. So here is the south sidewalk to the bridge. And the thing that's interesting about this is there's no entrance to the park because there's no park. So you have a fence all the way along. There's no Argia there waiting to take people out on day trips. There's no Steamboat Wharf, and you can see the Union Baptist Church up on the hill.
The Sanders place got quite a bit bigger too, hasn't it?
The what?
These bridge tenders.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yes. Okay, next. This is another view of the bridge. This is also taken from the roof of the main block. And you can really see that there is this fence all along here and really no place to go if you wanted to go into the park. But it was private property then, so nobody would be going in there anyway. Okay, next. And here's a view of the bridge from Gravel Street. And what's interesting here is you've got the old Central Hall building that burnt in 2000. It was a one-story building back then, but that's where it was before it burned. And of course, when they built it back to the size of the original Central Hall, which had had many fires over the years. Next, some things never change. The bridge is up, people are backed, cars are backed up. And in the 1970s, there were still tourists that flocked to the bridge. Next. But they looked kind of in their 70s garb. So, next. So the stores in downtown Mystic were definitely different along West Main Street. Oliver's Music Store operated at the corner of Pearl and West Main for years. Those of us who were teenagers in the 50s, 60s, and 70s bought lots of vinyl records at Oliver's. And today it's the Finer Line Gallery. But this is the one on the right gives you a better view of the store. And then on the left, you've got Oliver's, but then you've got the gray building. Used to be Kretzer's, but I think in 1976 it was Sunrise Farms that they operated there for a number of years. Next. And across the street from Oliver's on the south side of West Main Street was one of Mystic's most popular stores, Mystic Sporting Goods. Dick Neff and his staff supplied all the local schools and sports teams with their equipment, as well as every sports-minded Mystic resident. People today know this as Bank Square Books. Next. But there was a time when it was filled with bicycles and baseball bats. Next. So here's another angle of West Main, and down here is Mystic Sporting Goods, and next to it is I can't read it, Trade Winds Gallery, and then next to that is a giant hole because there was a 3-story, 100-year-old building that was destroyed by arson on August 6, 1974, that had stood there. And in 1974, a 21-year-old man from New London who had been robbing stores from New London to Montville to Westerly broke into the building there looking for money and didn't find any, so he decided he'd set it on fire. And so in 1976, it's still a vacant lot. Next. And here is Bank Square. In 1976, when the Mystic branch of the Hartford National Bank dominated the scene, It later became a Bank of America branch, and today it's a brew pub. And down here in the corner, in the far corner, you can see the old trolley tracks. They're still visible on the streets in 1976. Next. And here's a view from farther down Water Street looking back at the Hartford National Bank. And on the right, you have just this little, that's the Chelsea Groton, but I think it was Groton Savings Bank back then. But on the other side here was Wally's Golf Station. A lot of you will remember Wally. He ran that station for years. One of the many gas stations you'll see tonight. Next. And yes, there was life in Mystic before Mystic Pizza. Those of us who have lived here a long time will remember Ted's Pizza on one side and the laundromat on the other. Yep. And 12 years after this photo, of course, Mystic Pizza starring Julia Roberts came out, and now everyone thinks of Mystic Pizza and doesn't remember Ted's or the laundromat, unless you lived here back then. Next. So this photo was taken from the roof of the main building again, main block again, and you can see West Main Street going up toward the church, and then here's the Tradewind Gallery again and the empty lot, and then back here is what today is Steamboat Wharf parking lot. Okay, next. So this is downtown Mystic. You know, these photos look like they're squished in to me. But anyway, so the bridge is up. And this is Bandette's on the corner here in the Baptist church. And this is a photo that is iconic. I mean, artists have done it in oil. They've done it in watercolor. And next, it was a Christmas card in 1999. But it was a lot shabbier in 1976. Yep, Higgins. We'll get to it. It's in here. Yep. Okay. Next. Okay, so now we're looking down Baptist Hill, and you've got the bank on the right, and you've got Ted's Pizza on the left. Next. And then this is Bank Square again. This is showing the shops that are next to the Hartford National Bank going toward the bridge. You've got the Boyer Agency, and then you've got Oliver's, and then you've got the Sunrise Farms. Next. And here's another aerial shot of looking down at the shops in downtown Mystic. I like this because you can see the houses on Bank Street, and you can also see the houses up here on High Street. So, next. And this is West Main by the bridge. And the thing that's interesting about this is that where Mystic Drawbridge Ice Cream is today, that on and off for the last 130 years has been an ice cream shop. But in 1976, it was a plant shop. It was Village Pots and Plants. Next. And then here we have Sunrise Farms again. And then on the other side are some of the other stores. You've got Max Welton, and you've got Torhand Jewelers, and you've got the Mystic Floor Company. Next. And here we have again those same shops. Here's Oliver's and all along here. But over here, this is on the right is Higgins Pharmacy, and then Bandette's Specialty Shop. Bandette's had a shop on that side of the street. They had another one directly across the street. Yep. Yeah, we'll see the other one in a bit. Yep. The other thing that you can see here is that the houses on Pearl Street haven't changed much either. They look basically the same. Next. And then here's Higgins on the right, on the left, and Bandette's. And then the Grasshopper Shop is in the other photo. which is on the other corner of Gravel Street. Next. So now we're looking at the other side of this street. This is the main block, and that had stores along there too. So we'll look at some of the stores there next. We had the Mystic Candle Shop. Next. The Mystic Wheelhouse. Next. We have the Lighthouse, and we have Toscano's Barbershop. Next. We have a place that is selling fur, leather, and body coverage. I don't think you'd see that in downtown Mystic today. It's a little different 50 years ago. Next, and here we have Gravel Street. Julia took this also from the roof of the main block, the other side, and this really hasn't changed much either. The houses look basically the same color. Next. So here are some of the signs for the businesses that were along West Main Street. The food company, and then you've got the Mystic Floor Company, you've got Torhan's, you've got Max Welton, and then the Sunrise Farm is that blue sign down here. Okay, next. And then we've got the Ship's Lantern directly across the street. It's the Mariners today. Yes. And then these two buildings here, this is the other Bendet's stores that were directly across the street from the specialty shop. Next, this is just another view of the Ship's Lantern. Okay, so next. So now we're back up on the roof and we're looking downriver. So you can see on the left side of the river, here's Seaport Marine, and you can see the old train bridge there. But down here, this is where Steamboat Wharf, this is the stuff that was where Steamboat Wharf was before it was built. So it looks a little different. Next.
Is that the Jolly Beggars?
Oh, yep. Yeah, the Jolly Beggars, we'll get to it. I got photos of the Jolly Beggars. Yeah, next. All right, so this is actually what today is the Steamboat Wharf parking lot. And this is what it looked like in 1976. You can see the main block here. And then this is what's behind the Ship's Lantern that we just saw. And the corner, the little tiny corner of a building that you can see on the right, that's the Jolly Beggars. So this is what the future Steamboat Wharf parking lot looked like in 1976, the year that the Groton established a historic district in Mystic. This is, as I said, directly behind the Ship's Lantern. When you look at these photos and you see how derelict this area was, you can kind of get an idea of why the Historic District Commission saw the Steamboat Wharf condominium project as an improvement. They just didn't realize how much it would eliminate public access to the water, or the degree to which such large, tall buildings would obstruct views from both sides of the river. To the Historic District's credit, it changed the requirements for building proposals after Steamboat Wharf was built. It realized that blueprints didn't provide an adequate view of the impact of the buildings, that blueprints alone didn't let them see what the impact was going to be to the surrounding area. And so afterwards, they also required streetscapes to help them determine that impact. Next. Oh, okay, so this is also Steamboat Wharf before the condominiums. And this is the parking lot. And the condominiums today start here. They go all along here, and all the way up to the bridge. They just take over that entire area. But that's what it looked like. And this is the Mystic Art Association, which is the art museum today. And it just looked very different and very derelict back then.
Is that the title inlet?
What?
Right on this side of the art association, where that truck is, right behind the truck, is that water?
Yes, right. What do you, now that's all the parking lot there. The water is where the boats are.
No, I understood, but behind that red truck?
No, that's all sand. Next. Here's the Jolly Beggars. So, and the Jolly Beggars sat smack dab in the middle of where the Steamboat Wharf complex would be built. This was a popular place in the 1970s, kind of a holdover from the hippie era of the 1960s, with drinks and folk music, and Pete Seeger sang here. And next, it's Jolly Beggars again. Next. Okay, so this is a view from the Mystic Art Association looking north toward the bridge, and you could not have this view today. You can see the bridge, you can see the Steamboat Wharf takes up all of this area now. You cannot stand where that is and see the bridge anymore, because I walk through there every day. So that's what it looked like before Steamboat Wharf. Next. Here's another view of behind the ship's lantern, and this is the entrance to the Steamboat Wharf parking lot from West Main. And you can just see it was just not a very good-looking place back in 1976. So you can see why they put the Steamboat Wharf there. Next. Okay, this is even a better. This is the dock from the bridge going south. This is the Jolly Beggars right here. And this is, today this is a walkway, and all the Steamboat Wharf condominiums are there. But it really was not very well kept back then. Next. And here it is again. This is from the roof of the, and there's the boats along the, and where the Steamboat Wharf would soon be built. And you can see downriver to the train bridge, and the Cottrell Lumber Company on the other side. And next, there's the Jolly Beggars from the roof of the, and it's right on the river, and you can see where the boats are along the river. So, next. Oh, now here, this is the same parking lot, only it's from Water Street. So here's the main block, and then the Jolly Beggars is that gray building over there. And then this building in the front is the Yellow Brick Mall, if you guys remember when that was there. Yeah. Next. And this is the Art Association, two different views taken from the Stonington side of the river.
Do you know when the powerhouse was built there for the trolleys?
Oh my God, do I know when it was built? No, but when did the trolleys go in? 1901? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Next. Okay, so now we're over on Water Street. And this is an antiques. This was an antique shop in the 1970s. And then the Emporium is next to it. Next. And here's looking, if you're standing on New London Road, and that's the Emporium. Okay, and now we're going to go down into Fort Rachel, which really looks very different today from what it looked like in 1976. Next. Oh no, I forgot to tell you, there was a fire at the Emporium, and so she has a couple of fire photos. So there's one, and the next one. Yeah. Next. Okay, so now we're down at Fort Rachel, and the two things that, I have quite a few photos of Fort Rachel. The two things to look at is how derelict it was at the time, but also what great views you had upriver before there were condos, or across the river. So anyway, there's the railroad tracks, and that's Fort Rachel. And looking upriver, you can see the main block and the bridge. Next. And here's another one. And you can see, and Fort Rachel just looks so different today. It's very gentrified today. But you can look upriver and you can see the main block. None of that is view, you can see today because of the condos. There's a big high cliff, all rock down there, and she must have stood up there because. Yep, she's nodding that's where she stood. So, yep.
They moved that house too, didn't they?
Yeah. One of these houses isn't here anymore either. Next. So this is also looking across the river from Fort Rachel, and you can see there's the St. Patrick's steeple and the Congregational Church steeple and the railroad tracks. Next. And there's the old train bridge. All of this was upgraded when they put the Acela trains in the 90s. Amtrak upgraded the railroad tracks, and we got a new train bridge. Next. And here's the Daniel Packer Inn. This is the Daniel Packer Inn in 1976. So this is really a good example of how far Fort Rachel has come in the last 50 years. So, next. And this is a side view of the Daniel Packer Inn. Next. Just more views of Fort Rachel and how different it looks today from. Next. This is the same place, only more to the east, so you can see the water. Next. And here's a nice view looking upriver. As I said, you can see more looking upriver than you can today. Next. Another view upriver. You can even see the Stanton Chevrolet building all the way up there, which you wouldn't be able to see today. There's just too much other stuff in the way. Next. The train bridge again looking south. Next. And here's another view looking over at the Stonington side of the river. You can see the St. Patrick's and the Congregational Church and then the railroad tracks going along over toward Packard Tar Soap and the train station. Next. And here we're leaving Fort Rachel and going back up Water Street into downtown Mystic again. Okay, so now I'll show you a couple of pictures of next. This is the art festival in 1976. This is on West Main Street. And next, this is the other side of the river. This is actually in the Stanton Chevrolet parking lot, because there's the Stanton Chevrolet building there. People looking at the art. Next. And now we're on East Main Street looking toward the bridge, and you can see two more gas stations on the left. This was taken from in front of St. Patrick's. So you didn't have to worry about where to get gas. In 1976, there were a lot of options. Next. So now we're going to head up Greenmanville Avenue. This is the corner of Home Street looking north toward the seaport. And this building here is Pennywise today. I think it's painted yellow. Yep. Next. And then here we are looking back down Greenmanville from in front of the Rossi Velvet Mill. And on the right, you have the old Seaman's Inn restaurant that's been torn down. And then you've got the seaport parking lot on the left. And then this building right here, this long brown building, which I think belongs to the seaport today, that was a fabric store. Gingham Gate, back in the day. And you could buy all kinds of sewing notions there. Next. And here's the Rossi Velvet Mill. Next. Elm Grove Cemetery. Elm Grove hasn't changed very much. It probably has more people buried there than it did in 76. But this is the Mystic River and the cemetery. Then over here is the Lily Pond in the cemetery. Next. Then we have on the left the Mallory Arch looking out from the cemetery. And on the right, you're looking upriver with the Mystic River. Next. Okay, now we're heading up Greenmanville Avenue, and on the right you have the Seaport Fabrics. And then you can see the mobile gas station that's on the corner of Coogan Boulevard and Route 27. Next, here's Seaport Fabric. Next. So here's the Howard Johnson. That was the only thing on that side of the road in 1976, the Howard Johnson Motor Lodge. So, and then you can see I-95 up there. Next, And here's the mobile station, very 70s looking. Looks like something the Jetsons would stop at. So, anyway, Coogan Boulevard is here, and then across the street is Old Mystic Village. Next. This is my favorite photo of all the ones in the album because it took me a while to figure out what it was. But I figured it out because it's the widest road in Stonington. That's Coogan Boulevard, looking east toward Jerry Brown Road. And this is, building right here, is the IGA grocery store that was at Old Mystic Village for years. And that white building is the Mystic Aquarium in the aquarium parking lot. And you can see the little IGA sign on the side of the building. So, next. And I threw in a few photos of Old Mystic Village. It was 1976, and everything was revolutionary. I think everybody in 1976 had costumes for the American Revolution. And so they were having an encampment there. Next. And here we have more people in Revolutionary War costumes. Next. Okay, so now we're headed north on Route 27. We're north of the interstate, which is right here. The Best Western is in here. And this was taken right at where you come off I-95 onto Route 27. Next. And here's Handel's. So, yep. So, Handel's was there for years, and it had many lives and did many different things. But in the 1970s, it was known for the flea market that it had there every Sunday in this parking lot. And I'll have some photos of the flea market in a minute. Yeah, it had the Mystic Carousel. It had all kinds of things over the years. And it's not there anymore. There's a Hampton Inn there, and then there's a Charter Oak Credit Union is in the front. Next. So this photo gives a better perspective because there's a True Value Hardware, and this is Handel's. And there's a road that goes down between those two buildings, and it went out back where the Whitehall Cemetery is, and the Whitehall Mansion was originally there. And then you can see this is at the bottom of the exit ramp for the highway, and it shows you how to get to Mystic Seaport and Old Mystic. Next. And there's the Whitehall Mansion in its original location. It was moved across the street, and it's now on Route 27 in front of the Residence Inn by Marriott, and it's painted a different color. Next. Oh, here's the flea market. Next. They had all kinds of things at the flea market. And it was very popular. Flea markets were really popular in the 70s, and this was Mystic's version. Next. You could buy anything you wanted. Next. And there it is, taken from across the street, showing all of the people that were there. Next. Okay, now we're heading north on Route 27, and this is right next to Handel's. This is Gino's Pizza today. But that's what it looked like in 1976. Yep. Next. And this is what was across the street, absolutely nothing. In 1976. Today, the Residence Inn by Marriott is there with the Whitehall Mansion in front of it. And next to that is the Quality Inn, and next to that is another area that has Mystic Dentistry. And so it's all built up now, but in 1976 it was an open field.
The house on the left, wasn't that Helen and somebody else's?
I don't know whose house that was. Next. Oh, another gas station, but this one is still on the corner of Jerry Brown Road and Route 27. Okay, now we're going to go up Jerry Brown Road. Next. Here's the Perkins Farm. Yep. So this is today where the latest building around the Golden Triangle is. We have Hartford Healthcare's up there, and there was just a story in the paper on Monday that the second phase of the Harbor luxury hotel apartments is getting ready to leased the rooms or whatever. So, but anyway, this is what the Perkins farm looked like in 1976. Next. And here we are looking at the farm, looking down the road at it. The Stone Ridge is directly across the street from this today. Next. This is looking at the farm from the other direction. You can see the barn, you can see the silos, and the really beautiful stone walls. Next. Here's the driveway. This is taken from Pequot Seapost Road looking across Jerry Brown. Next. Oh, now we're back in downtown Mystic. This is Lower Pearl Street here, and that's Charles Davis House, so that's the beginning of Star Street, and then you can see River Road behind that. Next. Oh, River Road, looking north toward Old Mystic, and on the other side of the river, of course, is Elm Grove Cemetery. Next. And of course, back in the 70s, everybody fed the ducks up on River Road. I don't think they allow it anymore, but this was a very, very popular place in the 1970s. I'm going to end tonight with some photos from the biggest event that happened in Mystic in 1976, the Bicentennial Parade. And what's great about these photos is that Julia stood on West Main Street, just east of Pearl Street, and the parade units are stepping off Water Street onto West Main, and you can see the old trolley tracks in the middle of the road. So next. Oh, here's the Spirit of 76. Going to see a lot of flags, a lot of red, white, and blue. Next. So I told you there's going to be a lot of Revolutionary War costumes, a lot of flags. But you can see the trolley tracks. Next. Oh, here's St. Patrick's float. Next. And here's some militia firing their rifles. Next. Here's the Mystic Lions Club with all of their flags and their costumes. Next. Oh, and here are the veterans with all of their flags. Next. And here's the Mystic Highland Band and the great view of the trolley tracks there. Next. Here's the Union Baptist Church float. I have to tell you, I was thrilled when I saw this in Julia's album because I'm on this float. I'm right there behind, you can't see me, I'm behind that pulpit, but I'm in the blue. And Nick Titus is on here. He was the minister, and Percy Burks, he was portraying one of the early ministers, and the woman in red, that's Edith Cooper, and Sherry Pellerin. And we built the float on my father's flatbed truck. My father's driving the float. And this replica of the steeple, Barry Thorpe built that. He's a member of our church, but he also is a member of the Historical Society. And the church still has that. I hope they put it, if we have a parade for the 250th, that they put it in it. And we included a ship on there because the original building of the Mystic of the Union Baptist Church was the Mariners Free Church, so that's what that's for. But anyway, I was just thrilled to see it. Next, here it is again. You can see Barry's good work. I liked this photo because you can see the people up at Mystic Sporting Goods. They had a great view for the parade. Next, and of course, what's a parade without fire trucks, right? Next, and clowns. Next. And this is the Mystic Seaport float, and it says, continuing and saluting Mystic's 200-year tradition of ship and boat building. So I thought that was nice. Next, the Liberty Bell. Next, some more militia. Next, St. Mark's, and it's, got to get all the churches in there. Next. Oh, there's Mystic River Historical Society of Portersville Academy. Yep. Next. More fire trucks. Next. I don't know who this guy is, but I like the photo because it shows BB's Dairy. They can see the sign and you can see the door, and I just thought that was kind of nice. Next. And here's a Happy Birthday America cake. Next. And then everybody headed home on the Groton side of the river. Good view of the old Ted's Pizza and the laundromat again. Next. And here's everybody heading home on the Stonington side. And that's the end. Okay, I have got to have a drink.
Any questions?
Any questions? I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer them. But yes, you.
Access any of these pictures?
Can you access them? You can ask Betsy. She, our archive, she's way in the back.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I note that the Mystic Christmas decorations are getting more energized and more energized every year. What were they like in '76?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that we ever did anything in 1976. Does anybody remember? Yes?
I remember.
Okay, Karen.
It was Willis Schuster, Peter Stewart, and I. We got organized, and we had to have a male figure for Willa. Everybody remembers Willa.
Yes.
And we did it, and I can't believe it turned out like that. But we had, we started, and it was just a fun job, and a lot of people were involved in that, so it was a good thing.
So does anybody remember? I don't remember what the Christmas ornaments were like in '76. I mean, Mystic wasn't a huge tourist destination then, so I don't think anybody cared. I mean, we've gone overboard this year because we're on that webcam for Hallmark. Yeah. Yes.
What was the inspiration for this photographer to take this series of photos?
She
A
just,
school assignment or what?
no, I think she just enjoyed taking photos, and she was an amateur photographer, and she just, the photo albums that she gave us are just fabulous. She's got tons of photos of Mystic Seaport. I could do, other programs on it based on what she gave us, but I chose this because it was 50 years ago. It kind of fit into the program. I just want to say one other thing before, sorry. If this inspires any of you who have old photos of Mystic, we would love to have them. You don't have to give them up. Just bring them into the archive. We can make copies of them and give them back, but they're a great record to have. So if any of you have any and would like to give us some, that would be great. Yes?
I remember at the old Central Hall building, the other bookstore was there. And the bookkeeper in the winter had to be careful when she got up from her desk not to slip on the ice because it was built over the water, and on rough days the water would come up and it would freeze on the floor.
Yeah, it was the same thing in the Bridge House. When they had the fire, the 2000 fire when Central Hall burned, Rod Coleman told me he was coming through town and he saw he was the bridge tender, and he thought the bridge was on fire. And so he went in to check on and it was a sheet of ice. He said the whole bridge tender house, you could barely walk. It was all frozen. So I think that happened in a lot of places. Anybody else? You're on.
All right, Marilyn, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Have a happy New Year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, enjoy your holidays.